Hello friends, this is Worm, and today I wanted to talk about spec blades in Destiny 2 because Bungie really wants us to use spec blades and I really don't want to. And I figured we'd talk about why I don't want to and what's gonna need to happen to spec blades in order for it to become a, maybe not a meta pick, but even a viable pick. But this is all stemming from the most recent update that dropped yesterday, which basically Bungie made a change to spec blades that increased its damage, okay, against any non-champion PvE combatant, which I assume would include like bosses and stuff. Its damage was increased by 66%. They also did increase its damage versus champions by 30%. So I got just a net buff all around the board, and I took it into Destiny 2 and I used it, and it still feels so bad. And I don't understand why Bungie thinks that we just want more damage buffs and more damage buffs, because really damage was never the issue with Spectral blades. There's a couple issues with it. Number one, the length, how long it lasts, doesn't last nearly long enough. Okay, it's too short. The hit registration is absolutely terrible. It's honestly nothing special in terms of a super. It's probably just like a worse version of like any Titan melee super. And so I figured we talked today about what actual changes would need to come to Spectral blades to make us want to use them. And for starters, I really want to talk about the hit registration here, because hit registration is, in my opinion, like the biggest issue. It's the biggest thing that pushes me away from using it. Even in the Crucible, like I don't use spec blades very much because its hit registration is absolutely the worst. I will be running at an enemy and I'll get ready to hit them and they will strafe left or right by like 3 inches, and then I'll just swing at nothing. Or I'll go to swing at an enemy and it will like track towards them, but it'll go through them. It'll go through the enemy. The hit registration on it is so bad, and I don't know why Bungie can't just give it the same change they gave to like Fist of Havoc Titan. Fist of Havoc Titan, man, that shoulder charge does not miss. Why can't we get a similar thing with Spectral blades? And obviously the only thing I can think of is, well, it's 2 different classes. So maybe they don't want it to track as well as something like Fist of Havoc, but at the same time, that's what it needs. Like, I get so sick of whiffing my super so many times, and in fact, maybe in the gameplay, you'll see a couple times where I swing at an enemy and I just miss. Like, that's not because I'm just spamming my button and swinging all different directions. Like, that's because like I want to target an enemy, but that enemy moves a little bit too far to the left, too far to the right, or maybe I adjust my aim a little bit too far to the left, too far to the right, something like that, and it just doesn't hit. And especially at height differentials, oh my god, it's so bad. Like, literally, I remember in the Crucible, during Iron Banner, I was using Spectral blades and I popped my super, and literally all somebody has to do is jump, and I would swing at them and like I would just fail to hit them. Like it would like teleport me upwards, but I just wouldn't hit them. And it's not like that happened once or twice, and it's like, oh, maybe you could blame it on a little bit of latency or something like that. Like, it was happening every single time I use a super. Like, it was so frustrating. So the hit registration needs to be fixed, and really they just need to make it track this to the same level that Fist of Havoc does on Titan. That would be the first change that I think needs to happen. But also, in terms of the super's duration, like, this super does not last very long. Like, I know it probably lasts like the same duration as like other supers, but also like the attacks feel like they are way more costly when using Spectral blades. Like, the heavy attack consumes like what feels like 10% of your super. So like, you have a super going for, let's say 30 seconds, right? Or like 20 seconds, actually. I think it's probably more realistic. Doing one of those heavy attacks takes off 2 seconds of your super, which doesn't sound like a lot, but also light attacks drain your super. And like, I feel like I can get like maybe like 4 kills out of it, and then it's like, okay, like now it's about to be out. And that is ridiculously bad. And especially in high level content, things like Grandmaster, this super really has the potential to be the best roaming super in Grandmaster content because of its invisibility, and stuff like that, but it just falls short because the duration is too short. And this is the same with all roaming supers in Grandmaster level content and high level content and stuff. Is I activate the super, especially with melee based super, right? So I activate the super behind cover, I run out into the open, get a couple kills, okay, like I've got damage resistance, all as well. What is supposed to happen when the super runs out? I'm just going to be sitting there like a sitting duck, so to speak. And I think that's problematic. And it's not just spec blades, but Spec Blades is part of that. And I think that it needs probably about 5, I would say 10 seconds added to its duration at least. Okay, that way it lasts longer and it just feels more intuitive to use. Like, yes, they gave it a faster cooldown, which I like, don't get me wrong, but it needs more time. We need more time in the actual super. Not only that, but man, those heavy attacks need to stop draining so much super energy, and the light attacks need to stop draining super energy, period. Honestly, I would say any roaming super, the attacks should not drain super energy. Like in Bungie, if you wanted to do that, just adjust each super's you know, duration accordingly, but really it shouldn't be consuming that much super energy. So that would be another change that I think Spectral Blades really needs to have happen to it, is just make it free to do attacks. Make it free to, you know, do a heavy attack. Make it free to do a light attack. Maybe not free to do a heavy attack, but maybe take off, like, instead of 10%, maybe like 3%. That way you can't just spam heavy attacks around the battlefield. Or maybe there's like a slight cooldown between heavy attack uses, so you can't just run around doing backflips all around the battlefield. Like, you know, you gotta do a couple of light swipes here and there, then you can do a heavy or something like that. Just something to improve the duration would be substantial. Now, in other ideas that I had are some potential reworks of the super. A potential rework that I would really like to see, that in my opinion builds into the whole idea of a spectral, like, you know, a wraith like hunter, is when you activate that super, you permanently stay invisible. Like you don't have to do the heavy attack to go invisible. Like, you don't have to, you know, worry about coming out of invis. You are literally just invisible throughout the entire duration, right? Because, like, imagine you're in a video game, you're facing like a wraith like character, right? And wraith like characters, they are invisible, they're ghosts. That to me sounds like Spec Blades. You know, all of a sudden this Cabal is looking around and all of his teammates are dying around him, but he can't see what's attacking and what's killing him. Like, I think that would be a great rework. At the bare minimum, at least have it so that whenever you are finished with your attacks, in the invisibility aspect just reactivates. Okay, because I understand the limitations of, like, oh, well, you can't attack while invisible. Like, I understand the reason why, but at least, you know, have it so that invisibility will automatically reactivate after you're done with your light attack or after you're done with your heavy attack, so that players don't have to worry about, you know, being invisible, getting shot at on the battlefield. Like, hunters are pretty squishy, you know, I mean, you can focus on resilience, don't get me wrong, but I think most hunters probably don't focus on resilience. I know that I focus on mobility more than anything else, mobility and maybe some recovery if I'm playing the Crucible, but I don't know, I think that's really reworking it so that that invis stays active forever. It would be a really awesome, like, rework that we could see to Spectral Blades, or again, at the bare minimum, have it reactivate that invisibility after each melee attack. I think doing that really would bring it up to a level where I would actually have a desire to use it. I think that naturally the only other issue with Spectral Blades is that it is competing with Tether, and Tether is, honestly, it's too good to pass up. Okay, Spectral Blades, like, yeah, it's not that great, but even if you gave it all of these buffs and you made it, you know, a viable super, it's still competing with Tether, and Tether allows for some really strong damage output, you know, in a boss damage phase. You know, for ad clear, you know, if you're in a room with a bunch of ads, just fire a Tether off in the middle and it'll stick them all together. Then you can just clear them all in one shot instead of dancing around with your little knives, killing stuff. Like I don't really know how Bungie fixes it at that point, because it's really just, it's this super or it's that super, you know. It's kind of like Well of Radiance used to be. It's either Well of Radiance or Dawnblade. What is everybody gonna pick? Well of Radiance, because Well of Radiance is so good. We're the same standoff here with Hunter. You've got Tether, which is very good, and you've got Spectral Blades, which is not so good. But even if Spectral Blades was good, I would probably still in most instances choose Tether over it. But with that being said, let's stop the rambling and stuff. I want to hear your thoughts on my suggestions for Spectral Blade. Like, Bungie, again, they really want us to use it, and I don't want to. I don't see myself using it. It does not have anything going for it that I am just like, oh my god, I need this. I need Tether. I need it. But let me know your thoughts. Of course, if you liked today's video, drop a like. It helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content, conversations, debates, discussions, all that good stuff. And do me one more favor. Watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. And guys, I will see y'all next time. Bye for now.